The day before Thanksgiving, while families across America were preparing to gather around dinner tables, Todd Tucker was preparing something else entirely. Court documents, legal filings, a strategic move that would send shockwaves through the Real Housewives community and potentially rewrite the ending of one of reality TV's most beloved love stories. The filing landed on Wednesday, November 26. Todd Tucker was demanding primary custody of his 2 children with Kandi Burruss, but that wasn't all. He was also questioning the validity of the prenuptial agreement he signed over a decade ago, claiming he was pressured into putting his signature on that document without his attorneys present, moments before walking down the aisle.
This is the untold story of a divorce that's becoming far messier than anyone anticipated.
Let's rewind for a moment, because the signs were there if you knew where to look. Remember the Thanksgiving photo that circulated online? Kandi surrounded by family, smiling faces, the warmth of the holiday captured in a single frame. But someone was missing. Todd Tucker wasn't in that picture, and people noticed immediately. Social media erupted with speculation. Where was Todd? Why wasn't he there? Had something happened? Kandi moved quickly to shut down the rumors, explaining that Todd had been there for Thanksgiving. He'd just gone to bed early and missed the photo opportunity. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. But maybe there was something to see after all. Because just days before that Thanksgiving gathering, Todd had already filed his response to Kandi's divorce petition. He'd already made his move. The question becomes, did Kandi even know what was coming when she smiled for that camera? The couple had recently reunited for their daughter Blaze's birthday, presenting a united front for their children, co-parenting with grace, or so it seemed. But behind the scenes, legal teams were preparing for battle. Some observers had been predicting this exact scenario for months, maybe even years. They'd watched Todd's social media presence carefully, noting how he consistently positioned himself as the primary caregiver. The whole daddy daycare narrative wasn't just cute content for Instagram. It was building a case. Every post showing him doing school drop-offs, every video of him cooking meals for the kids, every story highlighting his hands-on parenting, it was all creating a public record. And now that record is part of his legal strategy. In his court filing, Todd makes a straightforward argument. He states that both children are currently in his care, residing with him in Georgia, while Kandi handles out-of-state work obligations. And those work obligations aren't temporary. Kandi just announced she'll be performing in the Broadway production of Romeo and Juliet right here in New York City. The show runs until March. That's months away from her children, months where Todd argues he'll be the one managing school schedules, doctor appointments, homework help, bedtime routines, all the invisible labor of daily parenting. Todd's filing emphasizes this point clearly. Kandi's work obligations will continue to require her to be away from the children for at least the next several months. It's not a judgment on her career ambitions, it's a practical reality. Broadway doesn't allow for part-time commitment. The show must go on, as they say, and Kandi must be in New York to make that happen. So Todd is asking the court for primary physical custody, but here's where it gets nuanced. He's also requesting joint legal custody. What's the difference? Physical custody determines where the children live day to day, who's handling the morning routine, who's there when they come home from school. Legal custody involves the big decisions, education choices, medical care, religious upbringing, major life choices that shape who these children become. Todd wants both children living with him primarily, but he wants Kandi to maintain equal say in the important decisions. He's also proposing that Kandi have substantial time and meaningful access to the children. This isn't about cutting her out. At least that's how his legal team is framing it. Todd's attorney went out of their way to praise Kandi as a mother. The filing explicitly states that Todd recognizes Kandi as a loving and capable parent. He remains sincerely hopeful that continued discussions between the parties will bring full resolution of all matters. The language is conciliatory, respectful even. This could be genuine sentiment, or it could be strategic positioning. In custody disputes, judges look favorably on parents who demonstrate willingness to co-parent and respect for the other parent's relationship with the children. But then there's the prenup issue, and this is where things get truly interesting. Todd admits he signed a prenuptial agreement before marrying Kandi on April 4, 2014, but he's now suggesting the circumstances under which he signed that agreement were problematic. According to his filing, the prenup was presented to him without his having legal counsel present, even though Kandi's attorney had been communicating with Todd's legal team about a potential prenuptial agreement. Think about what that means. Negotiations had been happening, Todd had lawyers involved in the process. His team had been significantly engaged in working out the terms. And then, according to Todd's version of events, Kandi's attorney presented the final agreement to Todd for his signature immediately before the wedding ceremony, without any notice to or consultation with Todd's team. Imagine that moment. You're about to get married. The ceremony is starting soon. Guests are arriving. Everything is in motion. And suddenly, you're handed a legal document and told you need to sign it right now. No time to call your lawyer. No time to review the terms carefully. No time to negotiate. Just sign here and we can proceed with the wedding. These circumstances, Todd's filing argues, raise substantial questions concerning the enforceability of said document. In legal terms, this concept is called signing under duress. If Todd can prove he was coerced or pressured into signing without proper legal representation and without adequate time to consider the implications, a judge might find the prenup invalid. And somewhere, Mama Joyce is probably saying she called this years ago. Remember her concerns about Todd's intentions? Remember how she questioned whether this marriage was the right move? The internet hasn't forgotten, and the jokes practically write themselves. But this isn't really about Mama Joyce being right or wrong. This is about what happens next if that prenup gets thrown out. Let's talk about what's actually at stake here. Todd's counterclaim demands division of all marital assets, both real and personal, tangible and intangible. Now, marital assets don't include everything Kandi owned before the marriage. Her royalties from her music career, her songwriting credits, property she purchased before they met, those likely remain hers regardless. But anything acquired during the marriage, that's potentially up for division. And Kandi Burruss didn't stop building her empire after she got married. She launched multiple businesses during their 11 years together. Restaurants, clothing lines, product collaborations, real estate investments. The question becomes, how much of that wealth is considered marital property? If the prenup stands, it likely specifies exactly how assets should be divided and whether Todd is entitled to any ongoing financial support. But if the prenup falls, the court will have to determine what's fair based on Georgia law and the specific circumstances of this marriage. Todd's filing makes clear what he's seeking if the prenup is found unenforceable. He wants potentially alimony, spousal support, ongoing payments from Kandi to maintain something closer to the lifestyle he enjoyed during the marriage. The filing suggests the prenup may have waived his right to alimony, which is why its enforceability matters so much. There's also the matter of child support. Even with primary physical custody, the parent who has the children living with them most of the time can still receive child support from the other parent if there's a significant income disparity. And let's be clear, Kandi Burruss is a wealthy woman. Multiple income streams, successful businesses, television appearances, music royalties, Broadway salaries. If Todd has primary custody and can demonstrate that Kandi's income substantially exceeds his, he could be entitled to child support payments to help cover the costs of raising their children. Some observers have pointed out the irony if Todd's attorney turned out to be Phaedra Parks, another Real Housewives of Atlanta alum and practicing attorney. That's not the case, but the speculation alone shows how much this story has captured public attention. Now let's look at Kandi's side of this equation, because she fired the first legal shot, even if Todd's response is what's making headlines now. Kandi filed for divorce on November 21st. In her petition, she listed the date of marriage as April 2014, which everyone knew, but she also listed the date of separation as July 15th, 2025. This detail matters more than you might think. Some people wondered if Kandi made this decision impulsively, if something happened recently that pushed her to file. But that separation date tells a different story. July 15th, that's nearly 5 months before she filed the paperwork. This wasn't a rash decision made in the heat of an argument. This was a separation that had been ongoing for months before either of them made it public. What happened in July? What triggered that separation? We may never know the full story, but it's clear this divorce has been in motion much longer than the public realized. In her filing, Kandi stated the marriage was irretrievably broken with no reasonable hope for reconciliation. That's the legal language required in Georgia for a no-fault divorce, but it also represents a definitive statement. There's no ambiguity there, no possibility of reconciliation. It's over. Kandi proposed joint custody of the children in her original filing, claiming it would be in their best interest, not primary custody to her, not primary to Todd. Joint custody, 50-50, both parents equally involved. She also made clear that she wanted the prenuptial agreement enforced, which makes perfect sense from her perspective. That agreement protects the assets she built before the marriage and likely limits her financial obligations after it. Regarding debt, Kandi noted that both parties possess debts incurred throughout the duration of the marriage, which should be subject to equitable division as directed by the prenuptial agreement. Even debt gets divided in divorce, and both sides want to make sure they're not stuck with more than their fair share. Kandi also asked the court to determine the amount of any child support award, leaving that door open. She's not ruling out paying child support if circumstances warrant it, but she's also not agreeing to any specific amount. Let the judge decide based on the facts. After 11 years of marriage, Kandi released a statement to the public on November 21st, the same day her filing became public record. Her words were carefully chosen. After deep thought and a lot of prayer, she wrote, "I've made the decision to move forward with a divorce. This is a difficult and emotional time, but my focus remains on protecting my peace, being the best mother I can be, and co-parenting with love and respect." Protecting my peace. That phrase has become something of a mantra in recent years, particularly among women choosing to prioritize their mental and emotional well-being. Kandi is stepping into a new chapter, pouring into her work, her family, and her own growth. She asked for privacy, grace, and understanding as they navigate this transition with their family. During a recent Amazon Live session, Kandi broke her silence further, indicating this split had been brewing for a while. She didn't go into specifics, but the implication was clear. This wasn't sudden. This was the culmination of ongoing issues that eventually became insurmountable. So where does this leave us? Two parents who once loved each other enough to build a family now find themselves on opposite sides of a custody dispute and a financial negotiation. Two different visions for what happens next. Two legal teams preparing their arguments. If the prenup holds, Kandi likely maintains most of her wealth. Todd gets whatever the agreement specifies, and the custody arrangement gets decided separately based on what's best for the children. If the prenup falls, everything becomes negotiable. Asset division could take months or even years to resolve. Alimony becomes a real possibility. The financial stakes skyrocket. The custody question presents its own complications. Todd's argument about Kandi's work schedule is grounded in reality. She is going to be in New York for months. She can't be in two places at once. But does that temporary situation justify changing the custody arrangement permanently? What happens when her Broadway run ends? Does custody shift again? Judges in custody cases focus on stability and the best interests of the children. Frequent changes in living arrangements can be disruptive, so the court will have to weigh Todd's current caregiving situation against the long-term picture. Is Kandi's Broadway commitment a temporary career opportunity or evidence of a pattern where work will consistently take priority over day-to-day parenting? There's also the question of what the children want. Though at ages 9 and 6, they're young enough that their preferences won't be the deciding factor. Still, their comfort and adjustment matter enormously. Legal experts would likely point out that Todd's strategy here is smart from a negotiation standpoint. By asking for primary physical custody and questioning the prenup, he's established a strong opening position. Even if he doesn't get everything he's requesting, he's created room to negotiate. Maybe they settle on a custody arrangement that gives him more than the 50-50 split Kandi proposed, but less than primary custody. Maybe the prenup gets upheld, but with some concessions on other financial matters. That's how these cases often resolve. Both sides stake out their positions, then slowly move toward middle ground through negotiation and mediation. Going to trial is expensive, emotionally draining, and public. Most divorce cases settle before reaching that point. But some cases don't settle. Some cases end up in front of a judge who makes the final decisions. And given the profile of both parties, given the wealth involved, given the custody dispute, this case has the potential to get very public very quickly. The timing of Todd's filing, the day before Thanksgiving, raises questions too. Was it strategic? Was it coincidence? Did he wait until after his legal team had everything prepared, and that just happened to be the day before the holiday? Or was there some significance to filing right before a family-focused holiday, making a statement about who's truly present for the children during important moments? We may never know the answer to that question, but the timing has certainly added to the dramatic narrative surrounding this divorce. What's clear is that both Kandi and Todd believe they're fighting for what's right. Todd believes he's been the primary caregiver and should continue in that role, especially given Kandi's work commitments. He believes the prenup he signed wasn't fairly negotiated. Kandi believes the prenup should stand because it was a legal agreement they both entered into. She believes joint custody serves the children's best interests. Both perspectives have merit. Both parents clearly love their children, and that's what makes this situation so complicated and so sad. Reality television fans have watched this relationship unfold over years. The courtship, the wedding special, the birth of their children, the family moments captured on camera. Kandi and Todd seemed like one of the success stories, a couple who made it work despite the pressures of fame and the drama that surrounds the Real Housewives franchise. But relationships are complex, and what we see on television or social media is always just a fraction of the full picture. Behind the scenes, Kandi and Todd were dealing with the same challenges any married couple faces, amplified by wealth, fame, busy careers, and the scrutiny that comes with public life. The dissolution of this marriage serves as a reminder that prenuptial agreements, while not romantic, exist for good reason. They protect both parties by establishing clear expectations about finances before emotions run high, but they're only effective if both people sign them willingly, with full understanding and proper legal representation. If Todd's claims about the circumstances of signing are accurate, that undermines the entire purpose of having a prenup in the first place. As this case moves forward, several key questions will need answers. Will Todd be able to prove he signed the prenup under duress? Will the court find that Kandi's work schedule justifies giving Todd primary physical custody? How will the marital assets be divided? What happens to the various businesses they built together? Will there be alimony? What about child support? Each of these questions has significant financial and practical implications. The answers will shape not just the immediate future, but the next decade or more of both their lives. For now, Kandi is in New York, pursuing her Broadway dreams, performing on one of the most prestigious stages in the world. Todd is in Georgia, caring for their children, managing the daily routines of parenting. They're living separate lives, connected only by the children they share, and the legal proceedings that will eventually determine how they move forward. The court process will take time, motions will be filed, discovery will happen, where both sides exchange financial documents and other relevant information. Depositions might occur, mediation will likely be attempted, and eventually either through settlement or trial, this chapter of their lives will close and a new one will begin. Whatever happens, two children are watching and learning. They're seeing how their parents handle conflict, how they treat each other during difficult times, how they prioritize or don't prioritize their children's needs. That's the lasting legacy of any divorce. Not the financial settlement or the custody arrangement, but the example set for the next generation about relationships, communication, and respect. Both Kandi and Todd have expressed commitment to co-parenting with love and respect. Now they have the opportunity to prove it, to show that even when a marriage ends, family doesn't have to. The road ahead won't be easy, but it's possible to navigate divorce with grace, to put children first, to find arrangements that work for everyone involved. Time will tell whether Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker can achieve that goal. For now, the legal battle is just beginning, and the outcome remains uncertain. The prenup that was supposed to protect them both might end up being the most contested piece of paper in the entire proceeding. The custody arrangement that should prioritize the children's well-being has become a negotiation about schedules, capabilities, and who's more present. This is where fairy tales collide with reality, where love stories meet legal strategy, where the family you built together becomes the subject of court documents and filing deadlines. It's messy, complicated, and painfully human, and it's all playing out in public, with fans and critics alike offering commentary on every development. The only certainty is that nothing about this divorce will be simple. Too much history, too much wealth, too much at stake. And somewhere in the middle of it all, two children are waiting to see what their future looks like, where they'll live, how they'll split their time, what normal becomes now that their parents' marriage is ending. That's the real story here, not the prenup drama or the custody battle or the financial implications. The real story is about a family being reconfigured, about two people who once promised forever now negotiating the terms of goodbye, about children learning to navigate a new reality they didn't choose. Welcome to the complicated, messy, very public divorce of Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker. The proceedings are just getting started, and based on what we've seen so far, there's a lot more to come.